the audience is just clamoring to see me on a more regular basis.
I get emails all the time.
Oh, I'm sure you
about
do.
the fact that they miss being able to see you because of your dreamy eyes.
Sure, I can't help but think that that's been a gigantic part of what's missing, a big void in the listener and viewer lives here in these last couple of months. But no, I have begun to set up. I think I told you last week, and so I started doing some of that last weekend, and it's coming along, man. So I like to think that after a couple of weeks here, when I'm back out for a little bit, that when I come back, give or take, that we'll be able to do that. Now, that's going to take our engineer, Randy, figuring out a couple of things for me as well, but I know he can do it, so I'm not worried about it.
Oh, I have tons of confidence in Randy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't have confidence in me, other than I know how to set up a camera and a microphone and our remote equipment. It's called the Comrex. That's the brand name. I can set all those things up. It's just a matter of Randy hooking it in and putting it on YouTube or whatever else. Yeah, so we'll figure it out.
And I agree with you. I don't have much confidence in you.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, listen, knowing is half the battle.
That's
right. So there's a great line. One of my favorite comedies of the 80s is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels with Michael Caine and Steve Martin. It is brilliantly funny. It's not as well known as some, but it is brilliantly funny. And Michael Caine in that movie plays a very, very smart, very forward-thinking con man. And Steve Martin is kind of a dolt, but he's also a con man. And in one scene, Michael Caine. Did I say Keaton? Michael Caine says to Steve Martin, know your limitations. You are a moron. And so, like if you just know these things in advance, then you're good to go.
Well, the other thing is too,
I'm ready.
Getting fixing a problem is knowing you have one.
Yeah.
So look at you. Look at you.
Again, I'm totally on board with. Be honest with yourself, kids, first and foremost. If not, then you're living a lie you'll never get out of.
Trust
but anyway,
me.
How are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good.
Lots going on around the business of college athletics. There's a few more things we'll get to today, including a great column from Matt Hayes, who lives down in Jacksonville, on bowl games. I want to touch on that a little bit later on. But I know there's some bad, I guess, Gamecock football news that we need to get to. So we'll touch on that. And you and I had a lengthy discussion that we should have saved for air, as we're often guilty of, about the state of affairs at Carolina men's basketball. So we'll touch on those things today, too. And more reaction from the Charles Bediako case yesterday. Is this the last of these? The more I thought about it this morning, the more I think it just might be, at least in terms of that particular rule, Terry, in terms of trying to say, hey, just because I declared for the draft doesn't mean I gave up my eligibility. I would like to believe, call me naive if you want to, and you can certainly agree or disagree right now, but I'd like to believe that when it comes to that specific challenge, I don't think we're going to see another one. I really don't. I don't think we're going to see another one.
I really hope not, because, again, that's a bad door, man. Whether it's Bediako, Amari Bailey, whoever, once you have voluntarily exhausted your eligibility and you want to move on to become a professional athlete, that's fine. But once you've done that, you should not be. Once you have, I guess, signed a contract with a professional team and you've moved on, whether it's the NBA, NFL, whatever, you shouldn't be able to do this. Look, I'm so pro player in so many things that it's ridiculous, but all of us have a line, right? And the line is, man, once you sign a two-way contract to play for an NBA team, or once you've been on an NFL roster or whatever, you shouldn't be able to go, hey, you know what? I got some eligibility left. What the hell? You shouldn't be able to do that. I
agree. And you'll have to tell me, Bailey, he was drafted, right?
He played 10 games in the NBA.
Yeah, but he was drafted.
He was a second-round pick.
Okay.
I forget.
I'm just making sure that
he was a second-round pick in the NBA draft. He played 1 year at UCLA, went into the draft, was taken in the second round. Was his rookie year he played 10 games or something like that. And then he's been kind of like doing the G League stuff. And again, he looks up and went, man, I can get back to college hoop. I got some eligibility, make me some NIL. I like that idea. And this is where, and Jay, you know as good as I do, if NIL wasn't there, these guys wouldn't be doing this. They just wouldn't be because there's no money in it.
Of course not.
Right.
Well, they wouldn't. I mean, I would like to believe. Now, again, I always say this facetiously, which is really disappointing. But I'd like to believe Nate Oates and Charles Bediako and Greg Byrne, the AD at Alabama, when they say that a huge component of Bediako wanting to come back was to finish his degree. I have seen a lot of cynics out there in the last 24 to 48 hours saying, let's see if he even finishes the semester now that he's not playing basketball.
Sure.
And I hope he does. I'm dead serious. I hope he does. I understand the cynicism. I don't want to be sucked into the cynicism. I do believe in the power of a good education. Terry, you and I as dads have talked about that. And a lot of us out there, we want the best for our kids and truly believe that getting a good education is first and foremost in their lives. So I'm all about that. But I also understand those who say this kid wants NIL money and a chance to redeem his basketball career and couldn't give two you-know-whats about whether he takes a class at Alabama. So we'll see where the truth is. We'll see. I don't know.
I hope, like you said, I am totally sucked into the world of cynicism. I live it, I eat it, I breathe it. But I really do hope that Bediako does really go to school and go get a degree. I don't think it's going to happen. But it would be nice to see someone who goes, no, dude, I wasn't BSing you. I really want to come back here and get my degree. And Nate Oates, they said they'll support him.
Put him on scholarship.
They'll put him on scholarship and let him go do it. So really, it's on Bediako if he legitimately wants to finish up his degree. Alabama, to their credit, is going to give him the chance to do it. Do I think he'll do it? No. Do I hope I'm wrong? Yeah. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, and considering that the educational component was a big part of the lawsuit, or at least the challenge, I guess not necessarily, remember his attorneys said, hey, this may make it really hard for him to get an education and pay for an education. And then Alabama, probably much to the chagrin of his attorneys, came out and said, well, we'll give him a scholarship still. And they were probably like, dadgummit, y'all aren't supposed to say that.
Right. Don't back us up. That's just all the dog and pony
come
show.
on. You're supposed to we're trying to make this hard on the kid. Not easy.
Can you see
but
the
no, but seriously,
going,
I hope, I do. Yeah. I genuinely hope that he takes advantage of it. But we'll talk more about that. And one of the big media voices has spoken on that too. So we'll get into more of the fallout from the Bediako situation. And there's a few other things to touch on, again, in the business of college athletics. But, yeah, real quick, Terry, I know it's been talked about today. We'll repeat it for those who maybe haven't heard it yet. There's not much more to add at this point in time. But if you didn't hear, yesterday afternoon, Gamecock football player Devontae Miles, a defensive tackle, was arrested on a couple of different charges. The improper display of a license tag, an issue with his window tinting, and once he was pulled over, responding officer smelled marijuana, was able to do a search of the vehicle, found multiple bags of marijuana and a weapon. And so Devontae has been charged with intent to distribute, amongst other things. We'll await his day in court in terms of what his future with the football team looks like. But certainly these are pretty serious charges, Terry. And at last check, we've not heard a whole lot more on this or from the university other than the standard "we are aware" type stuff. But I have no way of knowing what this is going to mean for Devontae Miles' future as a Carolina football player.
No, we don't. And again, all these are case by case. And obviously, look, let's not be naive. Also, first of all, they're all case by case. One reason is how good's a player. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
You have a future All-American or a current All-American that has this issue. It's going to be looked at differently from all sides compared to, Miles is a rotational interior defensive lineman. Played a little bit last year, came through the portal. No one's looking at him as an all-SEC guy. So we'll see how it's handled by the university and the football program. And that's just, look, that's not a knock on South Carolina. Every program would look at it the same way. You know what I mean? No, everybody
Yes.
looks at it the same way through that lens. But I will say this, and this is just me talking. If I'm driving around with a bunch of bags of weed in my car and a weapon, I'm probably going to make sure my license plate's in the right spot.
Yeah.
And maybe make sure all of my I'm following all the laws of the road. Just saying. That's just me. I don't know. Call me nutty, but that's just me. Anyway, look, however it plays out, it's not a good look. It's not good in general. And we'll see how the university and the football program, what they do about it moving forward.
Yeah, again, not a whole lot more to add at this point, but that is certainly something that's out there. All right, we'll come back on the other side. Terry, I know you and I talked about it, so let's jump into it because I think it's really interesting when it comes to not just the basketball part of the Carolina men's basketball team, but we've talked a lot about, again, the business of college athletics, and I'm gonna nod along with a lot of the things that you had to say when you and I were talking about it. But I do think you raised some very good points about where Carolina men's basketball is right now in a total package type situation. So I'm ready to jump into that if you are, sir.
All right, let's do that next. It's the post-game show. Jay and Terry hanging out with you till 6 here on the Game Network, and at the Game TV Radio and YouTube. Eight zero 875 MENS. That's the number for the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. And, we continue to talk about this because, look, again, guys are guys. We don't like to go to the doctor, talk about our problems. We're men, we're manly, we're macho, all that stuff. But, look, at the end of the day, as we get older, stuff changes. And we're not like we used to be. And sometimes it could be just low testosterone. It could be stopping where you're not sleeping as well as you used to, or you're not as strong at the gym. You don't bounce back from workouts. You don't remember things like you used to. You don't have any drive. Pick a room, living room, bedroom, boardroom, wherever. It could just be low T. 803-875-MENS. Set up a free consultation with Dr. Dan and the staff. They'll do a testosterone check on you, and if it is low T, they'll put you on a program specifically designed for you to get you back to being you again. The Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Postgame show. Jay Phillips, Terry Ford, rolling up until 6 o'clock here on the Game Network. And if you're digging us on YouTube, at the Game TV radio. Right now you're getting a fantastic look at my shiny head. Man, I can see why we get so many high numbers on the views, Jay. Woo!
Sure.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Well,
anyway.
I'll do my best to do my part to be back on those
That's right.
on those video streams.
I mean, you and I together, the dreaminess just pops off the screen, bud.
Oh yeah.
Let's just be real.
That's what we're here for.
Let's be real, man.
That's what we're here for. Yep.
All right, so you and I today, and I'll tell how it started for me. I was, trolling the old Twitter X, whatever the hell this thing's called, and I ran into.
You can still call it Twitter. It's fine.
I call it Twitter. That's what I do. I just call it Twitter. I call it the platform ruined by trolls. Anyway, so Mike Rodak, who does an excellent job covering Alabama sports, Mike put out on Twitter, and basically here's Alabama sport-by-sport profits, losses for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. So I just started looking at it because, rev share is a thing, generating revenue is a thing. Does a sport make you money, lose you money? And you and I have always said there's only two sports that generate revenue, football and men's basketball, right?
Yeah.
So I started off by looking at Alabama's revenues, expenses, and profit loss. And Alabama football, according to the numbers that are official numbers, Alabama football made over $147 million. The expenses of Alabama football were almost $83 million. So basically, Alabama football, just by this ledger, and of course we all know that it's not as easy as this, but just for our purpose of the exercise, Alabama made almost $65 million on football.
Yeah.
Obviously,
turned a profit of $65 million. Yeah.
And last time we checked, Alabama's a football school. So, men's basketball at Alabama. Now, again, Alabama has become more basketball friendly under Nate Oates. They've been to the Final Four. It's become a better venue for the home team. They actually have people there now. When was it? How many years ago, Jay? It was like a study hall. Anyway, men's basketball generated $24,406,961. Over $24 million men's basketball made at Alabama in the 24-25 fiscal year. The expenses were $15,230,000. So basically, Alabama made over $9 million of profit on men's basketball. That's Alabama. Yeah. Alabama. And so, Terry, list the rest of the sports that made money. I'm done, Jay.
Yeah.
I'm done. And it's not a surprise. Yeah. We always say these other sports don't make money.
No, it's typical. It's typical.
And for an example, we'll hit baseball and women's basketball because they're the other two sports that we keep eyeballs on. Baseball made $2.1 million in revenue. Alabama spent $6.7 million on baseball. So Alabama lost $4,471,000 roughly on baseball. Mm-hmm. Women's basketball, Alabama generated $764,000 on women's basketball. That's it. They didn't get to $1 million. The expenses for women's basketball at Alabama, $5.4 million. So Alabama lost almost $4.7 million on women's basketball.
All right.
Basically, men's basketball, revenue-wise, generated more revenue than the rest of these sports put together. So that's men's basketball.
Yeah, sure.
So then, while you and I were talking and we started going down rabbit holes like you and I do, thank God they don't charge us by the minute to talk on the phone. Good God, Jay. So I found South Carolina, but I want to thank Jordan Kay at the state. This is for the 2024 fiscal year.
Okay.
That went from, July 1st, 23 to, June 30th, 24, right?
Yeah.
All right, so South Carolina football-wise.
So that would have been the year, the fiscal year after Carolina went to the NCAA men's basketball tournament?
Yes. So keep that in mind because you earn revenue by going to the dance.
Yeah.
Football was, let's see, $78,496,000 was generated. Spent $47,559,000, so a profit of about $31 million on football for South Carolina in that fiscal year.
Okay.
Men's basketball generated $13.3 million. Expenses about $9.8 million. A profit of about $3.5 million. So basketball made $3.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball generated $4.6 million. The expense or the money spent on baseball about $7.4 million. So baseball lost about $2.75 million. Women's basketball generated about $5.9 million. $11.5 million is spent on women's basketball, the second most sport of money spent at $11.5 million. Women's basketball in South Carolina lost $5.6 million in 2024. So basically, Alabama generated $24 million on men's hoops, while South Carolina generated about $11 million less on men's basketball. And Carolina didn't spend anywhere near as much. They spent $9.8 million, while Alabama was spending $15 million. Alabama still made $9 million on basketball, despite spending about $6 million more than South Carolina on men's basketball. So if you look at this, forget what we love as a fan, sports, wins, law, forget all that. Let's look at this purely by business, Jay Phillips. 2 sports generate revenue. 2. Football and men's basketball. Alabama spent...
Generate positive
revenue.
Yes.
I should say profit. Let me use the word profit.
Yes. Yeah.
2 sports make a profit. Football and men's basketball. And that's universal for the most part. So right now, South Carolina spending $6 million less than Alabama, also turned a profit of what, $12 million less roughly than Alabama, $11 million? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So again, the point being is you spent, maybe $2 million more on men's basketball than you did baseball. You spent about $1.5 million less on men's basketball than you did women's basketball. Despite those 2 sports don't turn profit, even though women's, and you and I talked about this, the value of having Dawn Staley in one of the best women's programs in America for marketing and PR, that's an unknown number for us. We got to obviously equate that.
For us, and again, I do think that is absolutely part of why they spent. Look, it's Dawn Staley, and we also know now too that obviously the following year Lamont had his pay doubled. Mm-hmm. So we don't have that number. That's why I was asking you for when these numbers were published. So that would be before Lamont was given a raise for taking Carolina to the NCAA.
Lamont was one of the lowest paid coaches in the SEC before the raise.
Absolutely. And probably still is. Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to say in all this is South Carolina, from a business standpoint, needs to, and I'm going to try to say this very nicely, focus more on men's basketball. You've got to invest more because you can make more money. And in a rev share world where every dollar counts you make, the fact you have got the second biggest profit-pushing sport in college athletics, and you first of all, no one's investing less money in the roster than South Carolina. Right. Alabama is investing $6 million more in their basketball program, and half the people don't even care about Alabama basketball.
Right.
They're putting a lot more money in their men's basketball program. South Carolina is spending about $1.5 million less than they are in their women's program. South Carolina, look, if you go to any business major or business professor and give them those numbers, they say, what the hell are they doing?
Right. Well, and again, and like I say, let me be, I'm with you. This isn't me pushing back necessarily, other than to say, in the last known fiscal year of numbers that we have, I would say Carolina has now now they may be spending more on women's basketball too.
Right. Well,
I don't know.
And look, this isn't.
But in terms of where we are today, Lamont's making more, and I know from what you've been telling me, and others have told me that the questions I've asked, they've gone to more than $5 million on the roster.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But still, everybody else is spending more too, Jay. So they're still near the bottom.
Sure. It's all relative. It's all relative.
It's an arms race, and right now, South Carolina, when it comes to men's basketball, is using squirt guns. Yeah. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just looking at these numbers, and I'm just like, if you have a business, if you own multiple businesses as a company, and you have a business that everybody else is making profit on, and a lot more profit than you, why wouldn't you focus more on making that business more profitable because it has a high ceiling to make money?
Yeah.
That's my point about
well,
men's
let's come back
basketball.
because again, I'm with you. I've got some questions on exactly where focus really is, and have they focused and failed? That might also be part of this.
And that could be it too. I mean, again, this needs, and we talked about this about Lamont and the whole thing about Lamont and his job, and I keep saying this is bigger than Lamont. If you want to get this basketball program chucking in the right direction and be a consistently good program, you've got to focus on it more and invest more in it. You just do. You have to spend money to make money, Jay. That's the old saying. Right?
Now that you've said what you've said, I've got thoughts.
Okay.
I've got thoughts.
And we're going to get back to that next here on the postgame show. Jay Phillips and Terry Ford.
And if people out there have thoughts,
Feel free,
803-404-6100. I want to hear from you all.
And you can hit us up on that little Twitter machine. We'll get to that. We'll get the thoughts next here on the game. All right, so Friday, to kick off the Carolina baseball season, we will do our tailgate show from Village Idiot, a special version, 9 a.m. to 12:45 p.m. Then we have, after that, you will get pregame, 12:45 to 1 with Derek and Stewart, and then 1 o'clock first pitch, game 1 of the season and of the doubleheader between South Carolina and Northern Kentucky. Then about 45, 50 minutes after the first game, game 2 will pop. And so that's Friday. Saturday, the normal time, 1:45 pregame, 2 o'clock first pitch. Now there will be no game on Sunday. You got all that, right? You good?
Yeah. Why are they playing a doubleheader?
Because of impending possible weather problems.
Oh, okay.
Hey, weather already. Haven't even thrown a pitch yet.
It's not going to snow, is it?
It's something about the Himalayas stretch into the Midlands.
Sure.
So we got a lot of heavy snow possibilities coming off those mountains. Sure. So yeah.
Sure.
But anyway, that will be this weekend as we get Gamecock baseball rolling. All right. So we laid out all
just
these.
In case nobody heard that yesterday, doubleheader Friday. Just make sure everybody knows it. 'Cause that's
single game
also
Saturday.
That throws your afternoon off a little bit. Just
a little bit. Mm-hmm. And also, by the way, if you have tickets for Sunday's game, you can now use them for game 2 on Friday.
Yeah, just to further confuse things.
Exactly. All right, in the last segment, we were just throwing out some numbers of basically money spent on different sports, the money that sports generate, the revenue, the profit, and we could only get a hold of South Carolina's numbers from the 24 fiscal year. We were looking at Alabama's from the 25 fiscal year and how much money they made off of men's basketball as a profit, how much money they spent, the revenue they generated, and the fact that, like South Carolina, besides football and men's basketball, all the other sports lose money in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So, that being said, we were I won't speak for you, sir, I was saying from a business perspective, when you have 2 sports that are profitable, one of them you're all in on, the other you support to a certain ceiling. Maybe you need to reevaluate the one you only support to a certain ceiling because that one actually can be profitable. So.
Yeah, and I think there was probably a time, well, there certainly was a time when Carolina baseball was generating more revenue. Again, I'm not going to say making more money. I want to be careful with those things, but generating more revenue than it does right now, if only because Carolina was better and people were, there's more butts in the seats. I mean, let's just call it what it is. And then in the case of Dawn's program, I think one of the things that has been very important to Dawn and to the university is still keeping that ticket price very affordable. And in fact, I looked it up because once you were talking about some of these things, when you and I were talking earlier today in our meeting, after we were done, I went and looked up what Carolina women's basketball tickets cost in terms of season ticket packages. You can sit lower bowl, great seats, for $235 a seat, and that's 15 games. I mean, that's cheap.
That's good. Hey, Jay, that would have been good 10 years ago, man.
Yeah, that's cheap. You can sit upstairs for $80 a seat for 15 games. I mean, that's $5 a game, man. A little bit more than $5 a game. I mean, they may as well just open the door and let you in at that point. So I'm curious as to, and again, listen, I'm gonna go from A to Q to B to X when I say some of these things to try to put it all together. But one of the things we've mentioned many times is that one of the major reasons Jeremiah Donati has been hired is to generate more revenue. And to find those places where there is more revenue to be generated. And it's not going to come exclusively from putting the Blanchard logo on the football field, or now that it's been approved, putting patches on uniforms and helmets. Unfortunately, you can't put a patch on a uniform or a helmet for this coming baseball season. I think, I wish they'd gone ahead and done it, but they're going to approve that for the coming school year. So for now, you still have to wait Again, they really should have gone ahead and done it like effective immediately, in my opinion, Terry. But whatever. Anyway, so to your point, yeah. And does Jeremiah? And look, I'm not trying to say to any of you women's basketball fans, hey, y'all better be ready to have your numbers doubled. Or anything like that, because I don't believe that's going to happen. But if you put those ticket prices up a couple bucks a piece, over the course of an entire year, you might generate a few $100,000 to another $1 million, and that's probably something to look at. With football coming off a 4-win season, it's hard to really justify a raise in ticket prices, but we also know at the same time that part of what's going on at Williams-Brice is to raise that extra revenue that Carolina is lagging in. Alabama's got a lot of boxes, Terry. Mm-hmm. You talk about and look, it's Alabama football. They charge more money. People pay it. Sure. People want to be a part of it. Same thing at Georgia. Same thing at Florida. Same thing at Texas. Those are limitations that Carolina has right now that other schools don't. And again, for South Carolina, for far too long, they've been dead last in the SEC in premium seating and premium seat revenue in the SEC when it comes to Williams-Brice. And I'm not sure that they're generating enough in terms of the premium seating they have available right now at the arena. They're probably doing more for Dawn's team than they are for Lamont's team. So you're absolutely right. They've got to do more. And the number one way to do it, in the short term at least, is to try and put a better product on the floor. And this past season, from what we understand, they more than doubled the NIL budget, but it is clearly not helping. Now, let's just be honest. I mean, the results are the results. Those are facts, okay? Those are facts. And Carolina men's basketball has now slipped, if I understand correctly, to number – I haven't looked at it today, but the last number I saw was number 113 in the net ranking, the official NCAA net ranking. 113th best program, so you're not good. You're not good. Mm-hmm. You've got a coach that's been here a while. He's done something that's very hard to do. He's taken this program to the NCAAs. Does he deserve more opportunity relative to a $12 million buyout? The answer to that question might well be yes, but you got to give him more to work with in today's world. So if you're going from $5 million to what, Terry? $8 million, $9 million? Can he be completely trusted to put that roster together? If he had more than double this past season and this is what they've got, that'll be a question for Jeremiah Donati. You and I have talked about, does he, like Shane Beamer, does Lamont Paris need a change in staff, an upgrade in staff? Is there an equivalent for Lamont Paris to go get a Kendall Briles and really help him recruit and strategize and take advantage of some of the things that they can do? I don't know. Again, I'm not calling for it per se. I just know they got to get better. Mm-hmm. That's real groundbreaking journalism right there, Terry Ford.
Hot taker, you crazy hot taker.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, thanks. I do what I can here to put these shows together. But no, to be serious. So again, you're right, and I would, again, I might extrapolate that out a little bit more to have more butts in the seats for the baseball program. Mm-hmm. You don't need more butts in the seats for Dawn's program. They're packing them in most nights. But do you charge a couple bucks more there and generate those revenues? But when you're talking specifically of men's basketball, again, am I advocating for what I'm getting ready to say? Not necessarily, but I'll say it like this. Here's what I think could be I don't want to say the most plausible scenario, but maybe the most comfortable scenario, which might not be what fans want to hear. But you keep Lamont Paris because, again, buying him out of $12 million is a lot more revenue. Then you've got to go get a coach who's going to cost you a lot more in salary and his staff and his NIL budget. I think Lamont got this program to an NCAA tournament. That tells me something good. It also shows me that some people think it might have been a flash in the pan. Maybe. If he has better players to work with, he'll get more wins. What does that look like next year? And again, does he need an upgrade in staff? I think those are the first questions, Terry, that Lamont will have to answer when Jeremiah Donati and he sit down at the end of this basketball season here in about a month. Because unfortunately, in about a month, this basketball season is going to be over, unless South Carolina goes and wins the SEC men's basketball tournament. And I don't envision that at this point.
No.
So what does that look like? You know, where's the ceiling in terms of what Jeremiah can give Lamont in the same way that Jeremiah went to bat for Shane Beamer? You know, I think those are very legitimate questions, and when those are answered, we have a lot better idea. But I think Jeremiah would probably prefer to keep Lamont and give him more to work with. But what does that really look like when it comes to generating the revenues necessary to have that program turn a much bigger profit? And right now, I'm telling you, the best way to do that is to win more basketball games, and that's easier said than done.
Absolutely. And I'll leave you with this. Every team in the SEC spends at least $8 million on their roster, roughly, except Oklahoma and South Carolina. And who are the two teams at the bottom
then you've
of the
got
SEC?
you know, and does money alone do it? You know,
I think it's a combination. I think you give the resources, but the coach has to go out and put together a successful team, a coach a successful team. The money alone won't do it. It's the combination, right, Jay? It's like baseball. Like the Angels threw money at everybody for years, but they can't go to the playoffs. So it's more than just money. We'll come back, continue our conversation. Also hit the vault on the post-game show right here on The Game and The Game Network. Postgame show. Get to the vault in just a minute. Jay Phillips, Terry Ford, as we go up until 6 here on the game. Been talking a lot about men's basketball and financial commitment this hour. Been getting into that a ton. Before we hit the vault, you were getting ready to say something. I was so rude because we had to go to break because, we're a network and stuff.
Yeah, well, there's a piece on On3 today about Darren Peterson, the big star at Kansas, and from the reports out of Lawrence is that he makes he's making $3 million or more in NIL money this year, and he's a freshman, but he's also missed like 10 or 12 games, and the report focuses on it, and Joe Tipton is the one who wrote it. It focuses on whether or not that kind of spending, especially on a freshman who is clearly just as concerned, if not more concerned, about his next level opportunity than about what he's doing right now. It's not to say he's not committed, but how hurt is he? There have been a lot of questions about that, and he's preserving his body for the NBA. That's fine. Here again, Terry, is probably why college basketball needs, in my opinion, to work with the NBA and adopt the baseball model. If you go to college, you need to stay for a couple of years at least. Like with baseball, you got to stay for 3 if you go to a 4-year school out of high school. Or you can go to the draft right away. I'd like to see that kind of thing changed. But anyway, one of the questions is, should we maybe be spending that $3 million on 3 players for $1 million each who are more concerned about their collegiate opportunity than about someone who, I don't know if I can go, coach, but is making a lot because he was an elite high school player, but is now probably not going to provide Kansas enough in terms of value, at least, for that $3 million. And I think it's a very legitimate question to ask.
Well, I'll take it a step further. It also makes you think, look, when you're giving, an 18-year-old, no matter how unbelievably talented, $3 million, and again, you don't know what the inside the skull of an 18-year-old's thinking or the people around him. Would you be better off taking that $3 million and spending? If you're going to put it on one player, go find the best veteran player in the portal who is older and more mature and looks at things differently than an 18-year-old who is clearly only going to college because he has to get his year in so he can go to the NBA draft. I'm with you. I think forget this one and done. If you want to go straight out of high school to the NBA, you should be allowed to. But you're right. If you are going to come to college, there should be maybe it's 2 years and not 3. Whatever.
I would think 2. If it was basketball, I would like it to be 2. Yeah.
I think that's fair. That way, these kids who have zero desire to come to college. Look, here's the other part of this. There's only so few kids coming out of high school who the NBA is going to draft. They will draft some, but it's not like they're going to draft 30 kids from high school. So the few that are going to get drafted, let them go. They don't want to be in college. That's fine. And the rest of them go to college, and you have to be there for 2 years. So now you know where you're going to be. You're hunkered in, and it's time to play for the front of the jersey. And I just think that I think they should loosen that up in the NBA. I know the NBA doesn't want 18-year-olds running around their league, but they're okay with 19-year-olds. Okay.
And again,
weird.
But this would also be a great way for them to better utilize the G League.
Yep, absolutely.
I've never fully understood, for as much as I follow sports, and don't laugh at me too hard here, Terry, but again, I've never really understood why basketball and football are so averse to what has worked for 100+ years for hockey and baseball in terms of developmental leagues and getting players in young, getting them into your way of doing business, and then bringing them up accordingly. No. And I understand part of that is because it's very lucrative in college athletics. I understand that. I'm not naive, but you could have both.
Well, I think the one thing about basketball is it used to be players stayed 3 or 4 years back in the day. Now they don't, because, and I get why, but they used to stay. So the NBA was getting a more mature player. The Tim Duncans aren't there anymore. The Peyton Mannings are rare. It just doesn't happen like it used to. So now you're getting younger players in these leagues anyway than compared to what used to. In the NBA, look, I said a minute ago the NBA might only take a few high school kids. the G League, the NBA might start looking at the European model of, hell, we'll take all these teenagers and throw them in our G League, and that way we don't have to deal with what the colleges do to them, and we can
Right.
develop them our way.
Right.
So maybe that's where you end up going with this, and the kids that don't want to play in college, they don't have to play in college.
Or why they don't start. I mean, some of these teams need to just go start their own IMG academy. I mean, again, academies work quite well in Europe. Go start your own. I mean, start your own school. Here, kid, by the time you're 17 years old, you got your high school degree, and oh, by the way, look at you playing basketball the way you do.
All right, hour 2 of the postgame show coming up here on the game. Hour 2 of our little shindig. Jay Phillips, Terry Ford here on the Game Network, and you can watch us on at the Game TV radio on YouTube. All right, Jay Phillips.
Yeah.
Got a baseball game. Season's getting ready to start. Friday with a doubleheader. Real quick, I want to throw this at you. We haven't a chance to hear about this on the air yet.
Yeah.
We do our little Twitter polls around here.
Well.
And let's see here. We got a couple. Poll question of the day. What do you think is a fair expectation for this year's baseball team? Host a regional, top half of the SEC finish, or just make the NCAA tournament? Fair expectation, just make the NCAA tournament so far at 52%.
Okay.
That's where we're at right now.
I have said for years and will continue to believe this. I think South Carolina baseball fans should go into every season with an expectation that this baseball team can host a regional, because I think that's what this baseball program has become through the generations. Now, you're not going to do that every year because it's really hard to do that, and only 16 schools a year get to host. But you need to have that level of expectation every year. I do listen. Making the tournament should not be something that you hope for when it comes to Carolina baseball. It just should not. Period. So that in and of itself, Terry, is almost a given. So I guess now I understand the question, and I understand the current state of affairs. So I guess it's somewhere, I don't want to say, I guess I really can't say in between. But, you got to make the tournament here. I mean, you got to make the tournament here. I don't even know how. I don't know how much. What else can I say? I'm serious. Like, what else can I say? You got to make the tournament here. To go back-to-back seasons without it, is almost unthinkable. So that's where my head is. But as I've said many times, no matter who's coaching, I think that this baseball team's fan base should have an expectation of hosting. That you should be in that hosting conversation every season. That's what Carolina baseball has been and can be again. So I wouldn't let go of that too much. Now, again, from year to year, I understand that there are fluctuations in how things go. So I'm not sitting here saying, if you don't host, you stink. And fire everybody. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is going below that level of expectation too far, in my opinion, would be dangerous and a little detrimental. So I think you hold on to that. That's where I come from in that particular question. So, I don't know if I answered your question, but
yes,
that's where I am.
Fine job.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
And so the other one we did, this was day before yesterday. Are you excited for Gamecock baseball in 2026? Basically, just a yes or no answer. 67% said no. They were not.
Huh. I'm glad those aren't scientific.
Well, let me say this. 3,250 people viewed the poll, and we had over 400 votes on the poll.
Yeah. It's a decent sample size, and we know the folks that are responding by and large are supporters of Gamecock athletics. I think you should always be excited for it, right? But I think it's hard to generate some of that excitement with the way things have been the last few years. It's been a few years since Carolina hosted. I understand that. Although not too many. I mean, Mark went to 2 Supers, right? I think they hosted 3 times under Mark. One of them was sort of that backdoor hosting. Remember when Carolina was a 2 seed and hosted, I think, because Old Dominion didn't have the facilities. But I think other than that, they hosted twice and went to they went to the Supers in Raleigh and Athens. Does that sound right? I got to go back.
I think you're right.
That sounds right. That feels right anyway. I hope somebody out there is nodding affirmatively so that I don't feel bad about it. But anyway, yeah, I guess and there's part of the problem, Terry. Like, it used to be that opening day was a big deal and it was completely sold out and the whole weekend was sold out. You can't wait for 2 weeks away for the Clemson game and all that kind of stuff. And now I'm just, it's gonna, it's up to Paul Maneri and Monty and the staff to, hopefully make sure they brought the right guys in and win baseball games at a rate that is expected for Carolina fans. I just, again, the standard has been set. And you, again, lowering that standard too much, I think, like I said, would be detrimental. Should you expect to be in Omaha every year? I've had some fans say we ought to be in Omaha like every third year. Well, I don't know about that. That's hard. A super regional every third year doesn't seem all that unrealistic. Every fourth year, something like that. But I think you need to be better than that, really. But again, if you're hosting most years, you should be in contention to get to the Supers and to Omaha. And that's the level that Carolina needs to return to. I don't know if they'll do it this year or not. But and to, again, talk about generating revenue, more, put more butts in the seats on a nice warm spring afternoon and sell a few more hot dogs and sodas, and now you can buy a cold beer at the ballpark. So sell a few more of those responsibly, right? You're in better shape.
Couple comments on the poll. I always enjoy Gamecock baseball, and that program means a lot to the fan base. I'm hopeful we will see improvement. Hard not to. But I'm certainly not having expectations of Supers or beyond like I almost always do before each season. Another one. Let's see here. The other, what reasons are there to be excited for or optimistic for? One, to Jeremiah Donati, you have your work cut out, sir.
And
and
a
just
lot of things.
A couple others with basically, after coming off of last year, why would you have any kind of excitement for this upcoming season? Look, well, let's be real. Last year was awful. and I will say I didn't see that coming.
No.
I thought you brought in, I know Paul Maneri hadn't coached for a couple years, but a guy who was consistently in the mix to go to Omaha when he was at LSU. He never had a team crater the way that team cratered last year. And we've heard a lot of reasons why. But that was a surprise. And so once you see a season like that, I guess fans are going, well, a season like that, coach is coming back. I don't know three-quarters of the team. So what am I getting excited about?
Well, there's one big part of it, I think, too. Yeah, you don't, other than Scobie and a couple others, you don't have a lot returning that you can get behind and go, that's a good baseball player. That's a guy I'm excited about, with Ethan Petrie gone and things like that. So I get it. I get it. The only thing that's going to generate excitement, Terry, is, you better win the bulk of these early games. And you need to take that series against Clemson. And then as you prepare for what is always a difficult conference season, feel better about yourself. But winning the Clemson series will go a long way towards generating excitement come conference time. So, like any other thing in sports, winning cures everything. But they need to do a lot more winning.
Well, let me ask you this.
They need to do a lot more winning.
And because I was thinking about this, percolating this question in my head, and you kind of went there, so what the hell, we'll keep going. You, a guy that obviously has spent many, many years watching and rooting for this baseball team, as you watch this, is it win the series against Clemson and win the series against the Tar Heels, and then you feel better about the direction going into the SEC schedule? Or is that where you're at? Or are you like, look, no matter what you do in the non-con, I still am going to be a little concerned going into the SEC because the league's so strong? Where are you at?
Both things can be true. I think you should always be concerned going into conference play. That's 30 baseball games, 25 of which are probably going to be really, really hard. Occasionally you'll just get one that isn't for whatever reason. But beating Clemson in baseball, I've said many times, you can boil down Carolina Clemson hate to such a fine degree in that baseball series. And one of the great things about going to any of those games, whatever the venue that weekend, is that even though it's early March, it has a real late May feel to it, where almost a playoff feel, Terry, where And you know how it is in playoff baseball. Every pitch seems to matter. Every ground ball to short. Is he going to make the throw? Every double play, every strike, everything is just heightened and enhanced. And it's Clemson. And Clemson's good at baseball, and Carolina's good at baseball. But right now, Clemson's been a little bit better, and Eric Bakich has a really nice thing going up there. And you've had your opportunities and haven't been able to get it done the last couple of years. But so does winning the Clemson series necessarily set you up for things that are better in the SEC? No, not necessarily. I'm glad it's a weekend series and you get better pitching. And the games against Chapel Hill, those are Wednesdays or Tuesdays. I don't know how much that matters anymore. It's nice for the resume, but that's certainly not anything that's kind of a harbinger of what you should look like in the SEC. And that game is usually what that'll be. I forget when that is this year, and up in Charlotte, so a neutral site game, but. It's just the Clemson one, I think, for the fans here, gives them a little more juice. That's really where I think that the most important part of the Clemson series comes in.
All right, time to get to the vault real quick. A couple of them today, Jay Phillips. This happened, a massive upset in the world of sports. It happened on this day in Tokyo, I believe it was, in 1990.
At this point,
a desperate one-eyed fighter, rolling willingly just to try to get in the shot that will finish things in.
Oh, the uppercut.
What an uppercut by Douglas, and down goes Tyson.
Yep, Mike Tyson gets knocked out by Buster Douglas on this day in 1990. And look, man, before that fight, and I know Customato had passed away and Tyson was without Customato at the time, but Tyson was a killer. Remember Tyson would a Tyson fight. His opponent didn't want to leave the stool. Remember, Jay? It's like they had to push him into the ring.
Well, I mean, because he won 2 of his belts in the first round, right?
What he did to poor Michael Spinks was, honest to God, a felony in every state.
Yeah, thank God it's boxing.
But remember Michael Spinks? They're sitting there, they're tapping gloves, and Spinks is, look at his corner. You want me to fight this guy? You gonna give me a gun? Oh my God! I mean, Tyson was he was a wrecking ball, man. I mean, in my lifetime, I don't think I'd ever seen him. People told me early George Foreman was like this because, again, I wasn't. Yeah, George Foreman's early 70s.
George Foreman wasn't striking the same levels of fear in the early 70s that Mike Tyson was in the late 80s.
And that's the thing. The people that are boxing historians tell me early 70s George Foreman, early 60s Sonny Liston are the only thing of those generations to try to compare to Tyson. All I know is my lifetime, I have never seen a fighter where other fighters are visibly wetting themselves to get in the ring with. Because Tyson, unbelievable.
No, he was. And I've told this story before, and I can tell it in about a minute. But that night was also the night in 1990. The slam dunk contest was also happening. And we had some guys over at the house. And the people across the street from us, we would have parties with them a lot, too. This is when I was in college, obviously. And so we were all in – we had our den. We were all in the den, watching the slam dunk contest. And we were taping the Tyson fight because I don't know who Buster Douglas is, and we'll just watch Tyson later if we feel like it. Well, it was in my roommate's bedroom where we were taping the fight on HBO. And all of a sudden, he's like, hey, I think Mike Tyson might be getting beat here. And so all of a sudden, Terry, in a 12 by 12 college bedroom, or about 40 people trying to watch that fight on a 14-inch television, man.
Oh man,
it was insane. And they were and we started taping the slam dunk contest. We'll watch this later. Everybody crowded into Michael's bedroom to watch the Tyson fight. It was crazy. But yeah, I will never forget that. Never forget that.
I could totally picture 40 people packed into that room wanting to see the.
Oh man,
that was crazy.
We all lost about 10 pounds. It was like a sauna.
That's so good.
It was like a sauna.
All right.
Hey, when we come back on the other side, you got a couple of good hits on Twitter about our basketball conversation that I definitely want to get to.
Right. But we'll get to that next. That was, by the way. That was our check on the vault for the day. Mike Tyson losing to Buster Douglas. We'll come back, talk more Carolina men's basketball investment in the program next here on the Postgame Show. All right, post-game show. Jay, Terry, we're just sitting here, Jay and I, marveling at the fact that Italy, first we didn't know Italy had a hockey team, and Italy is tied with Sweden 2-2 about 9 minutes ago in the second period. And one of the kookiest stats, the game is tied at 2, but Sweden has 33 shots on goal, make it 34, and Italy has 4. But Italy has scored 2 goals on 4 shots. That is insane, Jay.
That's efficiency, my man.
Man, that's something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we are going to look up the Italian roster and see how many guys are from Canada.
Yeah, there's probably some Canadians and some Americans that have Italian descent. I know Italy is good about that. I was telling you, in their World Baseball Classic team a few years back, they had a bunch of dudes from Jersey and Florida and New York that were like the grandma came over from Italy.
Right.
But, Italy was like, hey, that counts.
Dude's named Soprano. Yeah, exactly.
At least when it came to baseball, playing baseball. If it was a soccer player, maybe not. But in baseball, yeah. Hey, by the way, speaking of baseball, thanks to our very good friend, the great Reggie Anderson, WLTX. He reminded me, one of Carolina's supers under Mark Kingston. Yeah, Mark's very first year was the best of 3 in Fayetteville. So I think it was Athens and Fayetteville were the supers, if I'm right. Not Raleigh. They did go to the regional up there, but that was not a super. So I think it was I hope I'm right then. Yeah, Arkansas and Georgia, I think, is where the Carolina baseball team played supers under Mark Kingston. But, yes, Reg, you're right about that. Absolutely. Couple of hits on Twitter here, Mr. Ford. The first one, I don't know this guy's name, but he says, well said on women's basketball ticket prices. The money that Dawn raises on these NIL start of the season games, how is that counted? Like $1 million in the Vegas player era tourney. Well, again, the numbers that Terry was reading from Jordan Kay are not this year's numbers. They actually are the numbers from the 2024 fiscal year. So, 25 fiscal year ended last summer, and then we'll have 26 numbers later. I mean, I imagine we could probably get a little bit more intel on that, and we'll dig into some of that for everybody here in the coming weeks in terms of where things are looking like, or what things are looking like right now. But that $1 million, I would think that's $1 million to the women's basketball program that'll be counted into how they generate revenue. So that's $1 million in generated revenue.
I mean,
that's a big deal. And that,
I guess the point really quick is that's you can't that's not guaranteed revenue. You got to go earn that winning a tournament.
Yeah, exactly. And there again is one of the things I was saying. And let me tell you what. Let me hold my thought, because I'll read this other one, and I'm torn on this one. This is from our guy John, who says, I personally believe it's inexcusable for Carolina's athletic department to spend so little on men's basketball, and equally inexcusable that more is spent on women's basketball. Strange, he writes, that the one which turns the profit is treated as a redheaded stepchild. Well, all right, a couple things. Number one there, again, you get an opportunity through women's basketball to go play in $1 million game where you get paid to show up. Not only that, don't forget that this coming basketball season, for the first time, thank God, because it's been way overdue, the NCAA will begin to pay units for women's basketball teams in the NCAA tournament. And so the farther that schools advance, the more money their school / conference will make. So right there, Carolina women's basketball is going to generate more revenue this year than they probably ever have before. John, I do not agree with you that it is inexcusable. You are paying a rock star head coach, who, by the way, makes about what Lamont Paris makes. And I think Dawn is the second highest paid women's coach in the country. And I want to say Dawn's making around $5 million. But you're paying for that notoriety. You're paying for what Dawn has brought in terms of international focus on the University of South Carolina and its women's basketball program at a time when there is unprecedented growth in women's basketball, at a time when the Carolina-Tennessee game the other day was on broadcast television 3 hours before kickoff of the Super Bowl. Not on the same network, obviously, but nevertheless as part of the Super Sunday afternoon lineup of sports on television, on broadcast television in the United States. Those are things that come with the territory. So, what you spend and what you don't make in terms of profit and loss on campus isn't always measured that way. If you can, what is the benefit, the PR benefit of games like that? And again, feel however you want to feel, but I would not agree that it is inexcusable. And again, the numbers that you had, Terry, are a couple of years ago. We know now, since those numbers came out, that Lamont has gotten a big raise, and that we know this past season, Carolina spent another, $3 million more on the roster.
On the roster.
So there's a lot more money being spent on men's basketball than the most recently published numbers from the school. So
I guess I'll go this way about it, and it's true they've spent more. But look, this is not to go in either or on spending money on men or women's basketball. That's not why we brought this up, or at least not why I brought it up.
Right.
Spend all you want on the women. That's fine. It's arguably the best or one of the two best programs in America, and I get you want to do everything you can to continue to have it be that. But my point is spending on men's basketball, because men's basketball actually turns a profit, and that's not an opinion. It's a fact by the numbers. It's one of the two sports in college athletics that turns a profit. So this isn't about not spending money on women's basketball. This is about also focusing on a sport that can actually turn you a profit in a generation, in a time where everybody's doing is screaming, how do we make money? That's where I'm going. And I think
I agree 100%.
Carolina,
and like I said too, and again, it goes back to the first tweet I read there. And I'm not suggesting this should happen, Terry, but again, both things could be true. You could at least turn a profit may be different. I don't want to speak out of turn here. But you could certainly generate more ticket revenue at CLA for Dawn's program.
Sure. I think, look,
they keep those tickets very, very affordable. I mean, I looked up the season ticket packages today. If I can sit lower bowl for less than $15 a game or less than $20 a game, that's not bad, man. I mean, at $235 is a single seat lower bowl. I think, and maybe some of them are even less than that. So, and again, you can sit upstairs. Apparently, you can sit upstairs in the corner for $80 a seat for the season.
Right.
15 games. I mean, that's cheap. Mm-hmm. So, again, you could double those numbers, and I think it would still be very affordable, and you're going to get a quality product. But yes, to your point, I agree with you. And I had somebody hit me on a text, a friend of mine on a text, and say, we see what he spent it on this year, Lamont, on the roster, even though they gave him more money. Yes, we did. We have seen it. We're watching it right now.
Right.
And it's not a good enough roster. It's just not.
I think that's where another conversation comes into play. Because, look, if you want to be serious about men's basketball, we say this all the time, you've got to spend at least $8 million on the roster. Because you're one of the only two schools that's not doing it, and the other school's Oklahoma, and right now South Carolina and Oklahoma they're sitting comfortably in the basement of the SEC. Mm-hmm. You got to spend money. $8 million seems to be the line. And Lamont had roughly $5.5 million this time, and obviously we're seeing the return on the investment, which there isn't any. So I guess the question for Jeremiah Donati, if we are going to up our investment in men's basketball, is this the right coach to up it with? And I think it's going to be a legitimate conversation. Roster building is something we have to take a look at when it comes to this basketball team under Lamont. And then we have to say, is it just because he doesn't have enough money, or do we have a question about his roster building in general? I think that's fair.
Right. And like as I said too, I'm going to throw Part C in there, Terry. Is there an equivalent to a Kendall Briles type hire that could be made for Lamont? I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, I'd like to think the short answer is just, in a general sense, yes. But what does that look like in more specific terms for Carolina basketball, for the budget, for the availability, et cetera? I don't know.
All right, we'll pop back in on the post-game show. What do you want to? Your time is almost done. What do you want to get to next month?
Yeah, Matt. We'll step away from this. Matt Hayes has an interesting piece on college football postseason that I want to get to. I want to see if people agree.
Let's do that next here on the post-game show. Jay and Terry on the Game Network, and on our YouTube channel at the Game TV Radio. All right, let's check that traffic real quick. We got a few accidents. Clemson Road at Two Notch. Also, Corley Mill Road near Sunset Boulevard. I-77 northbound near the Killian Road exit, which is exit 22. Also, Killian Road at 77. That might be the same accident. Just put in twice. Also, Pilgrim Church Road near Old Cherokee Road toward Lexington. We'll pop back in here, talk about Matt Hayes. Saturdays Down South, interesting column about college football. We'll get to that and give some thoughts on the post-game show with Jay and Terry on the game. All right, so Matt Hayes, excellent writer. Matt used to write for Sporting News for years. He's written for a bunch of different publications. Now, did you pull this from his Saturday Down South work there, Jay Phillips?
This is in USA Today. He
USA
also writes
Today?
for USA Today.
Okay.
So this is in, yep.
All right, so he's got a USA Today post about college football. Go for it. What you got?
Well, so I'll just go ahead, and just kind of get it out there. He basically calls for the shrinking of bowl games. And if you haven't heard, in the last few weeks, the L.A. Bowl, the Gronk Bowl, whatever they called it, but the L.A. Bowl was the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl for a minute. Then it was the Gronk Bowl.
One of the granddaddy
that was
of them
gone.
all. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's gone. And they're playing that one at SoFi. But I think even the people at SoFi were like, if nobody's here, we're not really showing off the ballpark, are we?
Right.
So the L.A. Bowl is gone. The Bahamas Bowl is gone. And now, Terry, the Detroit Bowl, whatever it had been called, Little Caesars Bowl, Cherry Bowl,
Jay,
it's gone.
Jay, no more trips to tropical Detroit in January or December?
No more trips, pre-holiday to Detroit, Michigan. And Matt basically, and look, I know a lot of people already feel, well, there's too many bowl games. And I know Heath Klein and I used to say to our audiences, well, hey, you don't have to watch them, because Heath and I typically agreed that, it's December television content, and, kids like going to bowl games, even if fans aren't there and even if nobody's in the seats. Again, ESPN bought half these bowls, literally bought half of these bowls for a reason. December television content. But Matt writes now, and I'll read verbatim here, most December bowl ball is unwatchable. When you're begging teams with losing records to play in bowl games that are nothing more than content for ESPN, and when some of those teams with losing records are turning down invitations, it may be time to start rethinking the process. And he goes on to say again that with Detroit saying no more bowl game here, what does that tell you? People just don't really want some of these games. He says, can we cut to the chase? If you're watching Troy play Jacksonville State in the Salute to Veterans Bowl from Montgomery on a random Tuesday in mid-December, you may have a problem. You want to salute a veteran? Don't make them watch that slop. Which I thought was... That's why Matt's a good writer. That's funny. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Like, sorry, veterans, we didn't mean to make you watch. I didn't even know Montgomery had a bowl game. I really didn't, But anyway, Terry, so is he on to something? And he talks about now with an expanded playoff coming, and we will get to 16, even though we didn't for this coming school year. We will get to 16. We might get to 24. But is he right in the sense that you are having schools turn down games? Remember, Notre Dame didn't want to go to a bowl. Now, they felt snubbed, and they decided they didn't want to go to a bowl game, and that's fine. I get it. I don't think it was the right thing to do, but in the moment when it happened, Notre Dame was hacked off, and I think emotion did play a part in that decision. But anyway, we've talked about, now, unless you're in the playoff, your star players that have NFL opportunities are going to they're gonna bow out of the bowl game. Maybe they travel with you, maybe they don't, but they're not going to play. And you are basically turning a lot of these December bowl games into glorified spring games. And he makes a good point. And if you're at a 6-6 level, sometimes 5-7, is it really worth it? And that's going to be up to the individual schools. And some schools would say, heck yeah, I want to be on ESPN. I'm going to have people watching this. I'm going to have recruits watching this. And I get it. But his basic point, too, Terry, is that if you trim these down a few more times, then what you might actually have is some schools that want to play in bowl games and get to, say, a 7th win, an 8th win, and have an opportunity to go show off, like Carolina playing Illinois, or so he doesn't mention them specifically, but I will. In the Citrus Bowl, and the Outback Bowl would still be a big deal. The Gator Bowl would still be a big deal, things like that. And maybe a return to, dare I say it, what some of us grew up with, where there weren't that many bowl games, and it did mean a little bit more. So I think he raises an interesting point. My first question to you, Terry, though, isn't are you going to miss these bowl games, Bahama Bowl, LA Bowl, Detroit Bowl, but because they are closing, does it mean that there won't be a void filled by some other town that wants a bowl game? And will ESPN and the NCAA, which does sanction bowl games, NCAA, actually seek out cities that might want these bowl games and put them back in play?
Sure. I mean, look, here's the thing. I've always been torn about this because my whole idea is if you have a losing record, you shouldn't go to a bowl game because a bowl game's a reward. I mean, I'm even like, for years I thought, if you have a 500 record, should you be rewarded with a bowl game? I mean, you're kissing your sister.
But when you got to put 84 teams in a bowl game, you got to have somebody.
That's the problem. And I get content. I get look, I've always said, I got to the point where I said this, look, do I think it's too many? Sure. But I understand TV content. I understand, kids get to be king of the town for a week or whatever. So, if you don't like it, just don't watch it. I mean, that's the way I got to the point of feeling. But for what we're talking about here, the quality of games, if you're getting 5-7 versus 5-7 or whatever, and half the guys on both teams have opted out for whatever reason, what are you getting? And so I do think if you could trim,
you're getting a glorified spring game, man.
Exactly. I mean, so if you trim it down, it's a good thing. But I will say this, and I learned this when I was in Boise because they have a bowl game there. At that point, it was like some kind of roadies truck stop and urinal bowl or whatever the hell it was, and I was like. My thought process, and they had actual urinals on the field. No, I'm kidding. But it's just the idea that, there's a mental picture to take you through the day. I think I learned that, like, if you have a corporate sponsor that's shelling out dough, you make money before you sell a ticket to some of these smaller bowl games.
Yes,
so enough corporate sponsorship. I remember the guy from Roadies or whatever it was. We were sitting up there in the box. And he looked at me, and we're looking at the crowd, and there's like 12 people. Like Northern Illinois versus like San Jose State, there's like 12 people there. And the dude looked at me and said, well, crowd kind of stinks, don't it? I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah, they've already made all their money off of us. Oh, really? And he explained how that worked. And I was like, wow, how about that? So to your question, could I absolutely see a mid-market kind of town want to grab a bowl game, especially if you got decent weather in December or January, find a couple of corporate sponsors, and you make money if nobody shows up, and even if it is 5-7 versus 5-7, I could see that, Jay, from a business standpoint. Now, from a football fan standpoint or, a quality of game standpoint or deserving to be in a bowl game standpoint, it's a different question. But I could see some mid-level town where there's good weather says, hey, let's go get a bowl game and make a few bucks.
Well, I mean, let's face it, man. I mean, look, Shreveport's had a bowl game for decades. Again, Montgomery has a bowl game. Birmingham has a bowl game. El Paso has a bowl game, right? I mean, these are not, now Conway has a bowl game, Terry.
Yeah,
Conway.
Exactly.
They call it the Myrtle Beach Bowl, but it's in Conway. But now nobody's going, and it's not a big ballpark, but it's on TV, and there's that teal field, and they get visit myrtlebeach.com to sponsor it, and whatever the heck else, man, and so.
And Jay, to the point of what you're saying, nobody's putting on a bowl in these cities year after year after year if it's losing money.
Right.
Follow what I'm saying.
Well, and that's why Detroit and L.A. and the Bahamas they're like, well, this is no longer good for us.
Right.
And so they're not doing it. And let's face it, in Detroit and L.A., you're playing an NFL ballpark. So you either got to fill it up, you got to staff it, but it doesn't have the allure for the kids. Like, you're going to play at an NFL stadium. I'd rather play at an NFL stadium in Florida or Charlotte.
Right.
Or Houston.
where I'm not freezing my tail off. Exactly.
Yeah. And I'm kind of surprised about the LA one, but again, you didn't really offer up enough to get better teams in there.
Well, that's what it is, because LA, man, they'll go like this. Half of them didn't even know there's a bowl game because you.
Oh yeah, and you're not going to play the Rose Bowl game, and you're still going to play the Rose Bowl at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah,
so
these guys are like, let's drive our Woody to Malibu and look at some girls in bikinis. They'd rather do that than go to the LA Bowl. Let's just be honest. So.
Right. Who wouldn't? I think if you had the kids that are playing in the LA Bowl, they'd rather do that.
They'd rather do that. All right, we'll come back and get a little Jay or Nay next here on the Postgame Show on the Game Network, and on our YouTube channel at the Game TV Radio. I get some Jay or Nay in here in just a minute on the post-game show. First of all, I want to get this out. We have not discussed this today, Jay Phillips. If you're still figuring out a way to do something for Valentine's Day, let's say you're stuck, you don't know what to do, or just say, hey, maybe you forgot. Yeah. Dudes do that. I mean, guys who sleep on the couch or end up single, you forget about Valentine's Day. So to save you from sleeping on the couch or getting dumped or whatever it could be, got a little Valentine's Day package for you this week, our little Valentine's giveaway. What you do is you get a pair of tickets for each Carolina baseball game this weekend, all 3 games. Also give you a craft beer card, because what goes better with baseball than some good craft beer. $100 at Jay's Corner for dinner. And dessert, because you always need dessert. Nothing Bundt Cakes dessert. Have you ever had Nothing Bundt Cakes? They're ridiculous.
On multiple occasions. It's not too far from my house. And,
it isn't far from your house. That's right, man.
We have become fans.
It's very good. Our little giveaway here is sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry. Just go to 1075thegame.com to register. And if you win, you're welcome that we saved you from embarrassment and all sorts of bad things on Valentine's Day. But go to 1075thegame.com to register for our little Valentine's Day giveaway. Basically, saving your butt for Valentine's Day, the game. All right, so we got a little Jay or Nay, man. You ready? It's going to be mock draft Jay or Nay, sir.
Oh, good. Okay. NFL, you mean, right?
No. Oh,
it's just any kind of mock.
Yeah, just mock drafts in general.
Okay.
National Lacrosse League. No, NFL mock draft. Field Yates just dropped one.
Okay.
NFL mock draft will start with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Vegas Raiders sitting at number 1, taking Fernando Mendoza. My question to you is, if you're a Fernando Mendoza, do you want to go to the L.A. Raider or the Vegas Raiders, Jay or Nay?
You know, I gotta put on my objective hat. I'm gonna say Jay, and I know it's weird, man, because again, you've got Sean Payton coaching Bo Nix, you've got Andy Reid coaching Patrick Mahomes, and you've got Jim Harbaugh coaching Justin Herbert. So now you're gonna have Clint Kubiak coaching Fernando Mendoza. That's 4 really good combinations. But you've got Brock Bowers to work with, who I think is emerging as the best tight end in football. Ashton Jeanty is a solid tailback who can also catch the ball out of the backfield. If they can get him a decent line, Terry. The hard part is that, again, the Raiders have had so many problems with so many things, and the other 3 teams in the division, look, Kansas City is down but not out. Denver made the championship game, and the Chargers made the playoffs and really should have been better, but they got banged up late and kind of faded, right? So it's a strong division. But if I'm Mendoza and I've got Brock Bowers to work with, and I've got Clint Kubiak now to work with, calling my plays and developing me, I kind of like that, man. So I'm going to go Jay. It's not a rock solid Jay, but it's certainly not the Jets, man.
That's right. All right, number 21.
Because if he doesn't go to the Raiders, if the Raiders want to trade it or something, the Jets are going to take that kid. And dude, you don't want to go to the Jets.
Oh, God, no. All right,
that's all I'm saying.
Jay or Nay, the second quarterback taken in this draft is Ty Simpson of Alabama, going to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21. Ty Simpson, you and I have had this conversation over our years together. I always say there's 2 buckets of failure for quarterbacks drafted in the first round. One is completion percentage under 50% for your college career, and 2 is only 1 year being a starting quarterback in college. Ty Simpson's only been a starting quarterback for 1 season. He has a lot of ability, don't get me wrong. Middle of the year, he was on a heater, kind of tailed off near the end of the season.
Yeah.
But if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're now the GM. Are you turning in the card for Ty Simpson, Jay or Nay?
I like Ty Simpson. I'll go Jay with a caveat. Number 1, I've now got Mike McCarthy coaching me, but I don't have any real weapons, and I should not be counted upon to be a rookie starter. So does that mean Mason Rudolph is going to start? Does that mean they're going to go into the free agent window and grab somebody? Is Aaron Rodgers coming back? Aaron already talked about it when they drafted Jordan Love. He's like, well, I'm not here to mentor anybody. I'm just here to. I said, okay, bro, you take it easy. Nobody's saying you got to sit here and read him a bedtime story every night.
Right.
So I like Ty Simpson too because he's the son of a coach. I think that helps him. I do like how Kalen DeVore can develop quarterbacks, and he got a couple of years of that. So I think there's a lot of promise there, as long as you don't want to see that promise fulfilled till maybe 28 or 29. Is that fair?
That's fair. There's your J or nay. Good job there, bud. Nice work by you. Very proud of you.
I do what I can.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? Remember, there's going to be a first round with all these quarterbacks, and now there's only going to be maybe 2?
Well, because I think a couple of them are, especially, look, I just think there's a bunch of guys that don't want to play for the Jets, man. They're scared to death they're going to get picked by the Jets.
Well, I mean, that's like the kiss of death, right? That's where careers go to die, or you at least
they just get paused. I mean, if you're Sam Darnold, and then you're like, oh, thank God I got out of there.
That's the only reason Sam Darnold's career got resuscitated, because he got away from the Jets.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And remember, the Jets were like, we don't think Sam Darnold's very good.
All right, my man. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yep. Later.
Quick check on the traffic before we get to the 5 o'clock news, sponsored by Integrated Media. That a couple accidents still out that we talked about maybe about a half hour ago, Clemson Road at Two Notch. Also Pilgrim Church Road near Old Cherokee Road around Lexington. And Harbison Boulevard at Bauer Parkway. We'll jump back in, 5 o'clock news from Integrated Media, get you caught up on what's going on in the world of sports. That's coming up next here on the Postgame Show. Terry Ford on the Game Network, and at the Game TV radio on YouTube. All right, time to check the 5 o'clock news from our buds at Integrated Media. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out. All right, and we talked about it earlier, but in case you have not heard about the situation, Devontae Miles, defensive tackle, redshirt senior defensive tackle for the Gamecocks, was arrested, was pulled over on a traffic stop by police officers for an improper display of his vehicle's tag and a window tint violation. During the stop, however, officers smelled marijuana and did a search of the car. Officers seized 20 individual bags of green plant material consistent with marijuana, according to the report, and a firearm during the search. According to the police report, law enforcement seized the firearm due to its proximity to the bags of green substance. Officers then transported Miles to the Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center, where he's awaiting a bond hearing. For the time being, Miles only charges possession with the intent to distribute marijuana, first offense. So, again, we'll see where all that goes. But that is the latest we have on that situation with Devontae Miles. All right. Also, obviously, South Carolina, the baseball season getting underway. Doubleheader again on Friday, in case you have missed it. Doubleheader on Friday. First game, 12:45 p.m. Pre-game, first pitch at 1. Second game, 45 to 50 minutes after Game 1's completion. We start off our festivities at 9 a.m. with our tailgate show for opening day, like always, from the Village Idiot. On Whaley, we go 9 to 12:45, and then we hand it off to the network for the pregame. Again, that is Friday, Carolina baseball. Getting the season started with a doubleheader against Northern Kentucky. Saturday's game still 1:45 pre, 2 o'clock first pitch. There is no Sunday game now, and all this happened because of weather situations. All right, we look at Field Yates' mock draft that was just dropped on ESPN.com, and a former Gamecock, Brandon Cisse, mocked to number 18 to the Minnesota Vikings by Field Yates. Here's what Yates says about Cisse, one of the most unique prospects in the draft class. He's a corner with uncommon strength and athletic ability. If he tests at the combine, get ready for a show. While a perimeter corner at his core, Cisse took occasional slot snaps at South Carolina as well. He was a force against the run from either alignment and can plaster perimeter wideouts in man coverage, staying physical and matching them stride for stride. Cisse, yeah, he's an athletic guy, and if he does run around in his underwear at the combine and do all the physical testing, and as dumb as it sounds, it would help him. And I'm not saying that dumb about Cisse, I'm just saying the whole process. The idea that some guy can go run the 40 on a track and up his draft stock. How fast you play. How fast do you run around in pads? That's what I care about. Not what you're doing, with your man capris on in Indy at the Combine. I like what the Rams are doing. They are looking at GPS speed for players in like Senior Bowl practices, Senior Bowl games, any kind of GPS speed metrics they can get from football programs, whether it's practice or game speed. They want speed while playing football, not combine speed. But yeah, unfortunately, there are teams that if Brandon Cisse goes to the Combine and tests well, there are teams that move up the draft board. Right now, Cisse's sitting middle first round or close to middle first round. This mock from Field Yates puts him with the Minnesota Vikings. I've said this. I like Cisse as a slot or a nickel corner. I think the way he comes up and tackles in the run game, he was the Gamecocks' best run defender last year on defense. Also, he's fast enough to deal with slot receivers, and he's got a little bit more twitchiness to him than some guys who play the outside as a corner. I think watching him this past year, he's got good catch-up speed, but he can get beat. He can get beat off the line. And in the NFL, how's that going to play against faster, bigger, quicker receivers out wide? I don't know. But I could see Cisse thriving as a nickel in the NFL. That's just me. But he could get get snaps at both spots. But he's going to go in the first round, which is great. Good for Brandon Cisse. So that's Field Yates mock draft there. All right. Also in the news, sponsored by Integrated Media here on the game. A judge Wednesday kept former New York Jet first-round draft pick Darren Lee in jail without bond as he faces a first-degree murder charge in the death of his girlfriend in Tennessee. The ruling by Hamilton County's criminal court judge Torrey Smith came after Lee was arrested and charged late last week. He also faces a charge of tampering with or fabricating evidence. Lee is due back in court for a preliminary hearing March 9th. Authorities identified, well, we don't need to know the name of the victim, but it's Lee's girlfriend. The couple had been living in a home they rented where the incident occurred for about 10 days. They've been living there. The detective on this case, Brian Lockhart, said he was presented during the autopsy and learned the potential manner of death is blunt force trauma, although an autopsy report has yet been released officially. According to the arrest affidavit, first responders on February 5th went to the home in the Chattanooga suburb for a call of CPR in progress where they found the woman already deceased. Lee told deputies that the woman might have fallen in the shower, but according to the affidavit, there were extensive amounts of blood in different areas of the residence that were inconsistent with Lee's statement. All right, we are checking the 5 o'clock news sponsored by Integrated Media here on the Game and the Game Network. A lot of depressing stuff today. Jeez. Lindsey Vonn undergoes a third leg surgery since her Olympic crash the other day. Vaughn had a successful third surgery on her broken left leg. Vaughn posted an update on Instagram that included photos of her giving the thumbs up sign in her hospital bed with a metal frame attached to her leg. I had my third surgery today. It was successful. Success today has a completely different meaning than it did a few days ago. I'm making progress. While it is slow, I know I'll be okay. And again, Vaughn, ruptured her ACL in the last cup event before the Olympics, and then said, "Screw it, I'm going to ski on my on one leg, basically," and then had that crazy fall on the downhill where she broke her leg. So it's been a tough week and a half for Lindsey Vonn. But I thought it was a great comeback. It's a shame. 41 years old, hadn't skied in a few years, decided, screw it, I'm going for it. Let's do it. And she was doing really well until the ACL situation and then the broken leg, obviously. All right, more news sponsored by Integrated Media. The FanDuel Sportsbook will no longer accept deposits by credit card starting March 2nd, the same step DraftKings took in August. FanDuel's statement, quote, "Over the past few months, FanDuel has been evaluating the payment methods that we offer customers, made a decision to remove credit cards as an option for our sportsbook, casino, and racing products in the U.S. This change has been made to improve the deposit experience for our customers. Many sports bettors don't use credit cards because they are responsible for the fees. So that is why one of the reasons why they're doing it. Another arrest. And again, this is depressing integrated media news. Sorry, Michael, you guys at integrated media. Falcons offensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich said Wednesday that he was obviously disappointed by the news of edge pass rusher James Pierce Jr.'s arrest on Saturday. When asked whether the Falcons must prepare to have Pierce in the short term, Ulbrich said he doesn't really know. Falcons' voluntary offseason program begins in April. Head coach Kevin Stefanski opened the news conference by saying he and his assistant coaches had nothing to add to Pierce's situation beyond the Falcons' statement on Saturday. Pierce is facing 5 felony charges in Florida in relation to an alleged domestic dispute with his ex-girlfriend, WNBA player Rakia Jackson, including aggravated battery with a deadly weapon and aggravated stalking. The police, Pierce allegedly rammed into Jackson's SUV multiple times, was arrested after a chase. Took a bunch of police to subdue Pierce. So we'll see what happens. And Pierce has been a guy, one of the reasons he fell late first round was there was some concern about Pierce off the field. Had a really nice rookie season. Franchise record, rookie franchise record, 10.5 sacks. But again, there was concern about Pierce off the field, and now we see Pierce having issues off the field. Again, Michael, crew, sorry about that news. Wow, depressing day in the news. Sponsored by Integrated Media here on the Postgame Show. All right, our golf outing, the official date, April 3rd at Charwood in West Columbia, 107.5 The Game Spring Outing. $100 per player, $400 per team, 9:30 a.m. shotgun start. The tee-off golf gun is back, I'm telling you. It is like the coolest thing ever. I'm not a golfer, but I would sit and I would shoot the golf gun all day. It's wild. Call Charwood 803-755-2000, press number 2 for the clubhouse. Again, Saki's Morning Libations Bar. Also, onion sausage sponsored by the Lexington Gamecock Club. Again, our spring golf outing, April 3rd. Call Charwood to get yourself set up, 803-755-2000, press 2 for the clubhouse. I will jump back in, hit the Gamecock notebook next here on the game. Bottom of the hour, a drive around the SEC as well. It is a post-game show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us as we roll till 6 here on the Game Network, and our YouTube channel at the Game Radio TV. I'm sorry, at the Game TV Radio. Listen to me, Chase. All right, checking the Gamecock notebook. Here on the game. Post-game show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us. I want to take a minute and we'll look at Jack Veltri put a breakdown of the his projected starting lineup for South Carolina opening day against Northern Kentucky. Of course, this Friday again. Our tailgate show, 9 a.m. to 12:45 at Village Idiot on Whaley. 12:45 pregame. First pitch, 1 o'clock for Game 1. Game 2, about 45 to 50 minutes approximately after Game 1. So the Friday doubleheader starting off the baseball season. Here is Jack's projected lineup. And catcher will be Talmadge LeCroy, according to Jack. And, Paul Maneri, again, has been on the Talmadge LeCroy train as a starting catcher from the beginning of camp. So Talmadge LeCroy behind the plate. He was a catcher a long, long time ago. Was a catcher last year till the injury. So Talmadge LeCroy should go back behind the plate. It would be great. Look, catchers obviously, and you're a baseball fan, the number one thing is defense, right? How do you handle a pitching staff? How do you play defensively behind the plate? How do you throw? How do you block, pitches? And then you get to the offense. Now, Talmadge LeCroy, again, offensively, he's had some moments, but he's also had some struggles. LeCroy is healthy, and he will be the catcher. A guy that, it's kind of a surprise, Bo Hollins has been hurt pretty much the entire preseason, but Hollins did jump into action on Friday, got a base knock. So it seems like Bo Hollins will be, if he is ready to go, he obviously will play first base. Logan Sutter, who at Purdue last year was excellent, hit .367, had an OPS of over 1,100, almost 1,200 OPS with 15 bombs. Logan Sutter looks to be the starting second baseman, has had some struggles in the preseason, but Sutter should open the year at second base, and hopefully he can get back to ripping it like he did at Purdue last year. KJ Scobie at shortstop. Last year played a lot as a freshman at third base. Hit 8 homers, batted .257, and was better than average defensively. So KJ Scobie now taking over at shortstop. Dawson Harmon, who played at College of Central Florida last year, hit .370 with 24 homers, 20 doubles, OPS of over 1,300. Dawson Harmon projected by Jack Veltri to be the opening day third baseman. Left field, Ethan Lazama. Lazama last year, another guy, ops over 1,000 at Western Kentucky at .336, 15 homers, an extra base hit machine with 18 doubles, 4 triples. So you're hoping that Lazama can kind of bring that to another notch in SEC play and also be productive. Tyler Bach is the center fielder. Bach has will be taking over for Nathan Hall, who was really good last year in center field. Patrick Evans in right field for South Carolina. He's capable of playing a lot of different places, corner, outfield, play some infield spots. He's a guy, again, South Carolina's hoping to bring some offense, as is Reese Moore, the catcher from Iowa, who, because Talmadge LeCroy seems like he will be the starter behind the plate, Moore could settle in the DH spot, hit over 300 last year with, 9 homers, 16 doubles, a couple triples, again, hit .304. So you'd like to have that bat in the lineup. The starter on Friday will be Riley Goodman. We were talking to Jack Veltri this morning on the Extra Point, and Jack's talking about Goodman's velocity, mid to upper 90s. Redshirt freshman, getting his first start opening day. But Paul Maneri and Terry Rooney and those guys love the arm talent of Riley Goodman, so we'll see how it goes there. Amp Phillips, day 2, the second game starter. Had kind of an up and down preseason. But Phillips will settle into the 2-hole probably game 2 on Friday. And Brandon Stone it will get the ball on Sunday. I mean, Stone last year was a closer, got moved around in the pitching staff with different roles as the season went along, but Brandon Stone will take the ball on Saturday. So game 1 starter, Riley Goodman on Friday. Game 2 Friday, the starter seems to be Am Phillips. Game 3 will be Brandon Stone on Saturday. Midweek, Bradley Hodges will be the midweek pitcher for South Carolina. Hodges, of course, coming through the portal. Bradley Hodges, I believe, coming through the portal from Virginia. So Bradley Hodges will get the midweek nod this upcoming week. And so will Connor Ciccoli. So that's the way this thing will go. Ciccoli was a midweek starter, had experience at Georgia Tech last year. And like we said, Hodges pitched at Virginia in a variety of roles, including starter. So that's kind of what Jack's projecting for this baseball team moving forward. So we'll see how that goes. And again, everything gets underway on Friday. 12:45 pregame, 1 o'clock first pitch. And, of course, again, our tailgate show from 9 a.m. to 12:45 here on the game in Columbia and also in Myrtle Beach as well. All right. We touched on this just a little bit. Field Yates mock draft. Again, Brandon Cisse mocking at number 18 to the Minnesota Vikings. Cisse was lower first round. Now he's starting to creep up the middle first round in some of these mocks. And again, I think it's ridiculous. Brandon Cisse, if he tests well at the combine, could move up even farther than Brandon Cisse. All right. Also, I want to get this in CBS Sports as we move to basketball, men's basketball. CBS Sports put this blurb out about South Carolina, the Gamecocks. The Gamecocks had the worst rated portal haul in the SEC, and they have the worst rating from KenPom in the conference. It just is what it is. The talent level has to be raised at South Carolina to truly compete in the SEC. Outside of Michie Johnson, there are not a ton of other guys on the roster who would be no-brainer starters on teams in the SEC. That has to change. Conclusion on South Carolina, had no money and no chance. Again, like we talk about, you got to spend the money. You got to invest the money in the program. Again, most teams in the SEC are investing $8 to $10 million on their men's basketball roster. South Carolina, even though it was better this year than last, still only $5.5 million, which is the worst in the conference. It's got to get better. Now, again, Jeremiah Donati has to sit down and say, all right, if we're going to up our commitment to men's basketball, which you should because it's only one of two college sports that, generate a profit, then is Lamont Paris the right guy to give $8 million to build a roster? So that's going to be the question. But first, you've got to sit down and say, are we going to invest for real in the men's basketball program, which means spending $8 million on the roster at the very least. So we shall see. But that was an interesting blurb from CBS Sports. And obviously, and we'll talk more about this the next couple of days as well, South Carolina going to Baton Rouge to face LSU, the women, number 3 in the country, LSU number 6. That game will be on our sister station, B1067, on Saturday night. We have baseball here on Saturday, and then men's basketball Saturday night. So we're busy around here. Busy, 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 busy. Now the baseball season has started. All right, that is the Gamecocks Notebook. Time for a drive around the SEC. That is next here on the Postgame Show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us here on The Game and The Game Network and our YouTube channel at The Game TV Radio. All right, one accident still hanging around from earlier. That's Harbison Boulevard at Bauer Parkway. Couple new ones, though. Blythewood Road at I-77. Highway 302 near Old Charleston Highway. North Main near Lorick Avenue. And Shop Road near Atlas. We'll come back and drive around the SEC, check out what happened last night in men's hoops in the conference. Also, we talk a lot about Ken Pom, the Ken Pom analytic rankings. We just talked about South Carolina being at the bottom of the Ken Pom for the SEC. Where do the other programs rank? We'll get to that next in our drive around the SEC here on the Postgame Show, on the Game, and the Game Network, and at the Game TV Radio on YouTube. Let's take a spin around the SEC here on the postgame show. We'll start off with what happened last night in the league. Vanderbilt went to Auburn, got themselves a W, up by 11 at the half, won by 8, 84-76. Tyler Tanner, not the most efficient night. I love Tyler Tanner's game. Not the most efficient night, though, for Tyler Tanner from the field. Only 6 of 16 from the floor, 1 of 4 from 3, but 12 of 13 from the line. Vandy hit 87% of their free throws, 26-30. Auburn, on the other hand, did shoot well from 3, 41%. Only 40% from the floor, though. And they get beat, again, 84-76 by Vanderbilt. Vandy, it was kind of a mixed bag. Like I said, they made 87% of their free throws, 46% from the floor, 35% from 3. But Vanderbilt, with the strength of a good first half, hold on to win 84-76. Vandy now 7-4 in the league. Auburn, they dropped to 5-6. Look, here's my thing on Stephen Pearl, the head coach at Auburn. I'm not sitting here saying Stephen Pearl will not be a good head coach one day. I don't know. Maybe he will be. Maybe it's the Baltimore in me, or where I grew up, the neighborhood I grew up. I hate nepotism. I hate it. You should get gigs because you deserve them, not because of your daddy or your mommy or your Uncle Woodrow or your Aunt Myrtle or whatever. You should get a gig because you deserve it. Stephen Pearl's been sitting next to his dad on the bench at Auburn. That's what he's been doing. And my guess is if Stephen Pearl's last name was Ford or Phillips or Schnefanowski, he's not getting the Auburn gig. Auburn would go, if Bruce Pearl retired and Stephen Pearl wasn't Bruce Pearl's kid, I would highly question if Auburn would have given Stephen Pearl the job. So I hate nepotism. I really do. That's not to say that Stephen Pearl, given time and patience, won't grow into a good head coach. He might. But all I know is Auburn's got a good roster and they're underachieving. And how much of it is that Auburn replaced a hell of a head coach who decided to leave and retire with an unknown head coach who might be in over his head. I don't know. But Auburn has not been the team they should have been this year, 14-10 overall. Arkansas, the 21st ranked Razorbacks, they rolled into Baton Rouge and just kicked LSU all over the place. 91-62 was the final. This thing was never in doubt, man. This was a skull kicking from the get-go, pretty much. And Arkansas, Nick Pringle opened the scoring, and Arkansas just kept going. Matter of fact, I think they scored the game's first 8 points up 12-2 at one point, and it just continued on. Arkansas gets the win. Darius Acuff, who will be a lottery pick, was phenomenal. 13-22 from the floor. Scored 28. Dished 5 assists. They had 4 turnovers, but dished 5 assists. And Arkansas gets an easy win over an LSU team that is now 2-9 in the SEC. And just Matt McMahon will be losing his job unless something crazy happens and some 180 turnaround. LSU will be looking for a new coach. So Arkansas 8-3 in the league, and like I said, LSU down to 2-9. That was the action last night in the SEC. So we talk about Ken Palm a lot, the Ken Pomeroy analytic rankings. A lot of folks in the college basketball world and college basketball dorks like myself always look at Ken Palm's rankings. It's efficiency rankings. Just to build the context here really quick, Michigan's the number 1 team in the country in the Ken Palm rankings. They are top 5 in offensive and defensive efficiency. And to throw this out for another point, only one team has won the national championship since Ken Palm ranking started roughly, 24 years ago? Only one team, I think it was 2013 UConn. Their offensive efficiency numbers are outside the top 25. Besides that, every team has won a national championship. Their efficiency numbers are inside the top 25 on offense and defense. Just give you that for context. And SEC teams who meet that mark, the highest rated SEC team is Florida at number 5. Florida is 14th offensively, 7th defensively. That puts them in the sweet spot to possibly repeat as national championships. Their backcourt's still got to get better from an offensive standpoint, but Florida's front court is ridiculously talented. So Florida sits in the wheelhouse of a team that can win the national championship. The next highest rated SEC team after Florida, when you move down these rankings, is Vanderbilt at number 13. Vanderbilt, 13th in offensive efficiency, 20th in defensive efficiency. So Vanderbilt is in the wheelhouse. Arkansas is sitting at number 16 in Ken Palm, a top 10 offensive team at number 6, but their defense is 42nd. That won't get it done. Arkansas's got to get better on D. Tennessee follows Arkansas at number 17. Now, Tennessee's the opposite. They're 37th on offense, 16th on defense. They got to get better on offense. This is something that happens to Rick Barnes' teams. Now, Rick Barnes has been to a couple of Elite Eights in a row, but again, the fact that his teams can get clunky on offense have hurt them. But right now, Tennessee, they missed the sweet spot of 25-25. They're the next highest ranked SEC team at 17. Alabama's at 20. The number 2 ranked offensive team in the country, but their defense at 65. It's gotten better, but still not acceptable if you want to win a national championship. The final team in the top 25, in top 30 from the SEC is Kentucky at 28. Kentucky top 15 defense, but their offense is right around 50, which is not like Kentucky at all. They're usually a lot better on offense than they've been this year. Last year they were under Mark Pope. That's how many SEC teams in the top 30. Auburn just outside the top 30 at 31. Again, Auburn's offense is really good, top 15 in the country, but the defense is not good. 82nd in America. That doesn't get it done. Texas A&M is at 33. They're in the top 50 in both offense and defense, but they don't get any better than 40 at either one. It's that style of play, the buckyball, that really drives people crazy. Texas is next at 34. Excellent offensive team, top 10 in the country, but their defense is bad. 101 in the country, bad for Sean Miller's crew. Next is Georgia at 37th. Georgia 33 on offense, 52nd on defense. I mean, a above average offensive team defensively, that's just not good enough to win at a high level. But what Mike White has done at Georgia, I mean, just an excellent job. Georgia's actually a good program. And when we talk about this with, again, go back to South Carolina, Georgia was terrible. Terrible. No one cared. We joked all the time. Most people at the university who went to the University of Georgia said, we got a men's basketball program? And now they're a good program under Mike White. Just saying, it can be done here. at South Carolina. Georgia's spending the money, and they got a good coach who knows how to spend the money. And they'll be in the NCAA tournament where you make more money. All right, also around the SEC in Ken Palm. Now we have to drop into the 40s and then the 50s where you find Missouri at 52. Missouri's okay. Top 60 offense, 70th defense. They're all right. 16-7, right around 500 in the league. Could Missouri get themselves into the NCAA tournament through the bubble? Yeah, they could. But they have to get better at both ends of the court. LSU, even though they're terrible record-wise, at 2-9 in the SEC, they're 54th in the Ken Palm. In the 50s on offense, but defense is in the hundreds. The defense is a problem. And again, like we said earlier, Matt McMahon, my guess is this will be the end for him at LSU. You can't spend $8 to $10 million on your roster and then only win 2 games in the league. Got to get better. Another team that could lose their coach, Porter Moser at Oklahoma, they're 58th in the Ken Palm. Their offense is top 45. Their defense, I don't even think they cross half court to play defense. I think they're allergic to that side of the court. Oklahoma's 142nd in defensive efficiency in the country. That's just terrible. Porter Moser's teams at Loyola of Chicago were excellent defensive teams. I don't know. Just ain't working. It just ain't working, man. I will wrap it up with a couple more. Ole Miss is at 67th. They are just, they're nothing special either end of the court. No wonder Chris Beard's losing his mind at Ole Miss this year. They just haven't been anything special. Skim down a little farther, you're starting to fall into some, look at Mississippi State at 86th. Really struggled on offense this year. Bad offensive team. 136th in the Ken Palm. It's a bad offensive team. And then South Carolina at number 99 in the Ken Palm. 107th on offense, 102nd on defense. So that's just it's been a struggle both ends of the court. So there you go. That's where all the teams in the SEC are in the Ken Palm analytic rankings. SEC is not going to be as good as they were last year regarding how many NCAA tournament bids they get, but you should see Florida will definitely get in. Vandy will get in. Arkansas will get in. Bama will get in. I think those are no-brainers. I think Kentucky will get in. A&M should get in. Possibly. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out. Same thing for Texas. How's the rest of the season play out for both those schools? We'll see if they get in or not. Georgia, they got a shot to get in the tournament as well. All right, so there you go. There's your drive around the SEC. Do a little Jay versus the internet next. And also a couple stories we haven't had a chance to yip about. We'll touch on those before we get out of here. It's a post-game show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging. We go till 6, and it's the best of the game into Dan Patrick. And then Southern Sports Tonight with our buddy Chuck Oliver along with our pal Heath Klein. All that's coming up here on The Game and The Game Network and our Game YouTube channel at The Game TV Radio. right, we will jump into some Jay versus the internet real quick, and then interesting post Ari Wasserman on 3. I guess it's list season. We'll give you a list. What does it mean in the big picture? Nothing. Just being honest. Postseason lists are what they are. I mean, preseason polls are kind of like ridiculous sometimes, right? I mean, Penn State, Clemson, Texas, all were going to be great. None of them made the college football playoff. Just saying. But we'll give you a list from On 3 rating the top 10 quarterbacks in the country returning for 2026. But first, we got to get a little Jay versus the internet. SEC hoops tonight. Florida traveling to Athens to face Georgia. Florida giving 8.5 to the Bulldogs in Athens. I think Florida goes to Georgia and wins, but the Bulldogs cover the 8.5. Ole Miss at home facing Alabama. Crimson Tide, of course, the emotional trauma of losing Charles Bediako. Yes, I'm being sarcastic. Alabama giving 6.5 to an Ole Miss team that's struggling this year at 3-7. I think the Tide go into Oxford and they win and cover the 6.5. And they do it for Charles, man. Mississippi State hosting Tennessee. Volunteers have been playing a lot better here of late. Mississippi State has not been playing good at all. 3-7 in the SEC, 11-12 overall. I think Tennessee goes in to Starkville and on the road not only wins but covers a 7.5 number. Texas A&M hosting Missouri. Texas A&M giving Mizzou 7.5. Only one game separates these two teams in the SEC standings. Yes, A&M's style of play bothers people. Missouri, though, can play fast. I think Texas A&M wins at home, but Missouri covers a 7.5. There we go. There's a little Jay versus the internet. All right, story. Again, it's just a list to give you a list, give you an idea what some folks are thinking about the upcoming college football season, even though it feels like 72 months away. All right, so on 3, Ari Wasserman ranks his top 10 quarterbacks returning and heading into the 2026 season. We'll start with number 10. C.J. Carr, Notre Dame. C.J. Carr was really good last year. Let's give credit where credit is due. Carr had a really nice first season as a starting quarterback. Old school, too. A homegrown quarterback plucked through the high school ranks. C.J. Carr had a nice first season as a starter at Notre Dame at number 10. Brendan Sorsby, now at Texas Tech. Sorsby really blossomed last year at Cincinnati. Accounted for 36 total touchdowns. Really elevated his game. We'll see if he can continue to do that at Texas Tech. Very, very quarterback-friendly offense. We'll see if Sorsby can keep it rolling. I don't know if he can, to be fair, because last year at Cincinnati, not to say Sorsby didn't have talent, but never played to that level before. And maybe he just grew, and maybe he'll be even better at Tech, but we'll see. Number 8, Darian Mensah at Miami. Don't like the way that whole thing played out, but let's push that aside. Mensah's a very talented guy, and he'll be working with Shannon Dawson with a very quarterback-friendly offense at Miami. He'll have weapons. I think Mensah will have a really good year with the Hurricane. Number 7, Jaden Maivea of Southern Cal. You're working with the quarterback whisperer, Lincoln Riley. Maivea was productive in 2025, throwing for over 3,700 yards, 24 touchdowns. I mean, Maivea was good at UNLV. You can see Maivea being even better in 2026. Interesting name here. Number 6, Gunnar Stockton at Georgia. Stockton wasn't asked to do a whole lot. Talking about throwing the ball down the field. Completed a lot of passes under 10 yards. Overall, though, hit 70% of his throws. Only had 5 picks, 24 touchdown passes. Can use his legs as a quarterback, kind of dual threat. Ran for 10 TDs. Gunnar Stockton fits what Georgia wants in a quarterback. We're not going to ask you to go win the game by yourself because we got a ton of talent on both sides of the ball. Go out there, point guard this thing, manage it. Don't put the ball in harm's way. and be productive. I think Gunnar Stockton will have a good year. Josh Hoover at Indiana is number 5. We'll see. Again, a very quarterback-friendly offense at Indiana. We've seen the last 2 transfer portal quarterbacks play well. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza won the Heisman and Indiana won the national title. Here's the thing with Hoover. Last year, he really put the ball in harm's way. A lot. Not just picks, but turnover-worthy plays. You can't be doing that, especially at Indiana, where they don't beat themselves. So, I mean, I get the talent of Hoover, and I see why Indiana liked the talent. You got to coach some of the danger and the gunslinger out of Hoover. If you can, he'll have a really nice year. Number 4, Julian Sayin at Ohio State. Salem was, he hit like almost 80% of his passes. Wasn't asked to fling it downfield a lot, but when he did, he was efficient. Sayin should be even better in 2026, and he's got wide receiver talent everywhere. Offensive lineman will be in the NFL. They got to get the run game back to being the run game at Ohio State. And they're bringing in, Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator. Interesting choice. The former Falcon head coach and the former Pittsburgh Steeler and Tennessee Titan OC. But Sayin has a ton of ability. He does. Number 2, Dante Moore at Oregon. I thought Dante Moore might go to the NFL draft, but Moore is like, I've only had 1 season as a starter, 1 full season. I'm going to come back to Oregon, make some NIL money, and work on my games. I still think I have holes. If Moore gets even better than what he was in 2025, obviously, he'll be the first pick in the NFL draft. Or this guy, Arch Manning at Texas, rated number 1. Manning got better as the year went along. He did. They had some issues on offense. Manning got better. We'll see if he can take the next step and be this godlike figure everybody thinks he should be. You did not hear the name Lenora Sellers. He's in the honorable mention crew. That's after last season. There are a lot of people who kind of now are giving the old eyebrow side eye to Lenoris. We'll see. A lot of things are being done to help Lenoris, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow. Post-game show, we're done. Thanks for hanging out and putting up with us here on The Game.